It's not paranoia if everyone really is out to get you. And if you have limited mobility, only a beak to defend yourself, and you taste like delicious chicken, everyone really is out to get you. Today we're going to take a look at some of the predators that hunt backyard hens and what you can do to protect your flock. When we started free-ranging our hens in the backyard, I mistakenly thought they'd be perfectly safe. After all, we have this 6-foot privacy fence. That should be enough to keep the hens in and the predators out, right? Wrong. I think it was the 3rd day after we started free-ranging them in the backyard. I came out from the inside to give them a treat, and I saw a magnificent large silver hawk take off from the center of the yard back to those trees back there. So immediately I start looking for the hens. Can't find them anywhere. I check the coop, they're not there. My panic level is starting to rise, and then I spot our smallest hen, Juliet, hiding underneath this butterfly bush. She was motionless and silent and terrified. So I picked her up and put her in the coop, and she climbed immediately back to the furthest nesting box and wouldn't come out. Then I started looking for Anna and Emma. They were nowhere to be found. I searched the entire yard. They're gone. So as you can imagine, I handled the situation calmly and rationally.
Anna and Emma, they're both dead. Juliet's the only survivor. She'll be scarred for life.
After that phone call, I returned to the backyard to conduct a more thorough search. I wanted to look for any signs of survivors or even remnants. So I started looking over the neighbors' fences to see if maybe one of the hens managed to escape. And that's when I came over here and looked in this little space between our shed and our fence where we keep a lot of our yard supplies. And there I found Anna and Emma hiding in the very back, motionless and terrified. I reunited them with Juliet, and they all huddled in the back of the chicken coop. That experience was a real wake-up call for all of us. The poor hens were traumatized. They stayed back in their nesting box, didn't want to come out for several days. They would hop down into their run, have some food and water, and then jump right back up into the coop for several days. I think it was 5 days before they started coming out and being willing to walk around in the backyard again. And that gave me some time to do some research into what types of predators hunt backyard hens and what I could do to protect them. Some of the predators we found lurking around our chicken coop include this cat, who is perched on our shed roof on more than one occasion, but has proven too wary to take on a flock of birds who are all about as big as he is. Although our hens are clearly aware of him, they've stopped alerting or hiding when he appears. Hawks are some of the most dangerous predators for our hens. They tend to perch on this telephone pole behind me and some of the large trees around our yard, and they watch our flock and wait for a perfect time to perform a swooping dive attack, hoping to kill and carry away one of our chickens. We've also found there are several nocturnal predators that hunt our hens. Those include raccoons and this possum, who, like the cat, perches on the top of our shed roof. He's clearly aware of the chicken coop and would just love to snack on one of our hens for dinner. Once you and your hens become more aware of the types of animals that visit your backyard, you might be surprised at the variety of visitors you have. For us, that included this giant heron who perched on our utility wires and watched our flock for a while before moving on. So once you've become aware of some of the dangers your hens are facing, what are some of the things you can do to protect them? The good news is your hens have a lot of instinctual behaviors that are designed to support their survival. Some of those things include watching the skies and alerting whenever they see a predator. They also like to dust bathe and relax in areas that are shaded and under objects and near fences. All of those things help prevent them from being seen by overhead predators and interfere with any kind of swoop attack that a hawk might perform. They also have a general fear of pretty much everything, which can include their own treats.
Ooh, you want this treat? Oh, sorry guys. Come here.
There are a number of things that you can do to encourage and expand your hens' defenses. Those include landscaping your yard in such a way that you provide plenty of objects for them to hide under, such as these butterfly bushes and even this composter. Our hens like to hide under there for both shade in the summer and to protect themselves from overhead attacks. They also like this bench over here under our pergola. You can also respond to their alert calls. I haven't found a predator yet that hasn't fled immediately when Nathan or I showed up in the backyard. Another thing you can do is, there are times when your hens, although they keep a wary eye for predators, become really distracted, and that's especially during feeding time when you're throwing out treats. So one of the things that I like to do is throw treats behind bushes and in areas that I'd like them to hang out in so that they're protected from overhead attacks. Some of the other defenses that we've found really useful include these hanging reflectors, which do a great job of protecting against hawks and overhead attacks. In fact, since we've hung these up around the yard, we've only had a problem with hawks on cloudy or overcast days when the effectiveness of these reflectors is really reduced. Another thing that you can put up is decoy birds like this crow. Crows naturally irritate and hunt hawks and try to drive them out of their area. So this little guy has been pretty effective. He's actually lured a lot of other crows into our yard, which is great for protecting the hens. One thing about decoy birds is if you're using them in your yard, you want to move them around occasionally because predators become aware really quickly that they're a fake bird and they're not actually a threat if they're not moved around the yard frequently. So one of the other things that you can do to protect your hens is enhance your coop safety. Initially, this coop didn't even have a lock or a latch on the nesting box for the coop, and any raccoon who comes along and smells some hens in there is easily going to be able to figure out how to lift this up and get inside. So one of the first things I did is install this latch, and you put a simple carabiner in there to protect your hens from wandering predators. The other thing is, if currently our coop, we close the door at night to lock in the hens, but if you allow your hens to have access to their run at all times with a door that's always open, you really want to make sure that predators can't get into the run. And one of the ways to do that is make sure there's no space between your run and the coop itself.
To protect your hens from predators that would burrow or dig into their run, you can lay an apron of steel hardware cloth around the run that extends about 2 feet out from the base of the run in every direction. And that stops animals from coming up and digging. Basically, they'll run into the hardware cloth and they'll give up.
After applying these safety mechanisms, so far we've managed to avoid any losses in our flock. Hopefully you can use these to defend your chickens as well, so that you can enjoy their delicious eggs without allowing predators to enjoy your delicious chickens.